Well, I think it's fair to say that 2020 has proved to be a bit of a bad year, all things considered. And over the past few weeks, the music world has been dealt another cruel blow with the departure of two modern greats. This week saw the passing of guitar legend Eddie Van Halen, and last week, the bass world lost another all-time great in the king of fingerstyle funk, Mr. Francis Rocco Prestia Jr. of the band Tower of Power. Now, if you're a bass player and have never heard Tower of Power or any of Rocco's lines, then you're missing out on one of the most influential funkateers out there and some of the coolest bass lines ever recorded. Today in this video I'll be quickly breaking down probably the most famous of his lines by way of the song What Is Hip. This is a great test of your stamina and technique, and I'd recommend using this song as a study piece for developing bass players in any style. Before we get started, remember to give me a like and subscribe to the channel for lessons every Friday. Also leave me a comment to let me know what other Rocco Prestia Tower of Power bass lines you'd like me to break down. What Is Hip is obviously the most famous of their tunes, but there are too many displays of Rocco brilliance to mention, so give me your recommendations for the channel. Also, remember the tab and tracks are there over at TalkingBass, so just follow the link in the info below, and while you're there, take a look at the lesson map where you'll find over 350 other free bass lessons, all organised and systemised for ease of navigation. So, we've got two very similar bass lines to look at, the opening line and the verse riff. What Is Hip is at a tempo of 110 beats per minute, and the opening line sounds something like this. So first I'll just work through the notes and then I'll give you some help with the technique and rhythms. So we start with an anticipation of a 16th note on the low E here, and then we move straight up to the E here at the 7th fret of the A string where we play this pedal bass line. Okay, so we've got the open E and then okay. So it's all on that E for the first bar, so we've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 3, 4. Second bar, we've got 2 beats of that again, so 1 E and a 2 E and then finally we have this little move. Okay, so we've got E, 7th fret of the A string up to the octave there, E at the 9th fret of the G string. Okay, then we come back down to the E at the 7th fret. And then we just keep playing that pedal until we get to this low E here on the and of 4, and I'll talk about the rhythm again in a minute. So, and then we hit the E again at the 7th fret of the A string as that 16th note anticipation again, and that's it. We're just back into the line again. So, 1, 2. Okay, so all of that very slowly. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So there are a few things here to work on. One is the pedal bass line on that E. We've got to look at the finger picking order, we've got to look at the technique required for the muted tone, and also the stamina and conviction required to nail the feel. We also have syncopated 16th note anticipations in the rhythm, so even though this line sounds fairly straightforward, there's more going on in here than you might realise. So we'll approach this in steps. First of all, we just want to get down that basic pedal. So as I showed, we're going to be playing this E here at the 7th fret of the A string, and we're going to be playing straight 16th notes with alternate picking like this. Okay, so we have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now there are two subtle things that we need to do here. One of them is to recognise our starting finger in the right hand. You want to be hitting the downbeats with the first finger, the index finger. So start with the first finger like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So index, middle, index, middle. And this might be contrary to how some of you might naturally start a pedal like this out of habit. You know, some of you might start with the middle finger, but this starting with the first finger is going to be really important when it comes to adding in the extra notes later on. So start out slow and just try accenting each downbeat so you can keep better track of the finger. So we have just accent on each beat. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and that accent wants to be with that first finger, with the index finger. So, like I said, just start out on that index finger. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and then you can build up speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other thing we need to do is play the pedal with a muted tone. And to do this, we can make use of the Rocco technique of using the fretting hand as a mute. So just fret the E there with the first finger and then play the line. But then you want to slowly bring down these remaining fingers to lightly touch the strings. And if you do it right, you'll get this cool muted tone. Okay, so unmuted and then. Okay, and if you go between them, you'll hear the difference. Okay, so you'll hear that. You can hear how much more, let's say, funky it sounds with the mute. And that's really got that characteristic Rocco muted vibe. Okay, so now let's add that opening anticipation of a 16th note. So we're playing the open E string on the 16th note before beat 1. So for the counting, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 E and da. So 1, 2, 3, 4 E and da. And we hold across the bar. Then we want to get into the pedal line on the second 16th note of the bar. So 1 E and da. So 1 E and da. Okay, so we hold across. So 1, 2, 3, 4 E and da, and then 1 E and da. Okay, so if we were to just clap that along with the count, 4 E and da, 1 E and da. 4 E and da, 1 E and da. 4 E and da, 1 E and da. 1, 2, 3, 4 E and da, 1 E and da. Okay, so if you listen to the original, you'll be able to hear it and probably just feel it from there. But if you want to count it, that's how to go. Now, it's important here to pay attention to the finger picking. You can hit the open E string with the first finger of the picking hand, and then it's really imperative that you play the first of those next 16th notes with the second finger or the middle finger. So this ensures that you're landing with the first finger on those downbeats. So 1, 2, 3, 4 E and 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see there that I'm hitting the accents, each beat there, each downbeat with the first finger. So that's really, really important. So 1, 2, 3, 4 E and da. So if we put all of that together, we can just loop it round. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 E and 1, 2. So obviously you'll want to start out slow with this line and then just gradually build up speed. And to help with this, I've added tracks at 3 different tempos, 90, 100 and 110 beats per minute. So let's have a listen to it at 90 beats per minute. Now you'll notice that because we're playing this pedal for quite a while, it helps to really keep count as you're working through, and then you know when that turnaround is going to come up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So you've got those first 2 beats in that next bar, 1, 2, and then you're in, okay? So let's have a listen to it at 100 beats per minute. One, two. Finally, let's try that line at full speed, 110 beats per minute. Now, one thing you'll notice with this line as you build up speed is that it's going to take quite a bit of stamina if you're not used to these kind of 16th note funk lines. So, that's just something that'll come. Over time, playing this kind of line, you're going to build up a lot of stamina in this hand. And also, you really want to have quite a lot of conviction in the way that you play it. You don't want to be lazy on it. You really want to keep on top of the beat. And it's really easy with these kind of lines when you're playing these long sets of 16th notes to kind of get a little bit lazy at times. And then, the feel's going to go. And then when you're getting into these, this kind of stuff at the end, it might not be as tight and articulated as you'd like it to be. So really, try and ramp up that conviction as you're playing it. Okay, so now let's move on to the verse riff, which is very similar and sounds like this. So the first 2 bars are exactly the same as in the intro line. Apart from the open E there as the anticipation, we don't have that. We start with the E at the 7th fret of the A string. So. Okay, so exactly the same. But then in the 3rd bar, we play the pedal simply for 3 notes in beat 1. So we've got the anticipation again. Okay, then we have this line. Okay, so for that line, in terms of the notes, we have D natural, 7th fret of the G string, played twice. Then down to the E at the 7th fret of the A string, played twice. Then C sharp, 6th fret of the G string, played twice. Back down to the E again, 7th fret of the A string, played twice. So. And then we work up. So D natural, D sharp, E, 7th, 8th and 9th frets on the G string, 2 notes on each, so. Then A sharp, B, 7th, 8th, 9th frets, double notes on each, so. And then finally we have our little turnaround of. Okay, exactly the same as we did in the opening line. So, and then the anticipation again on that 7th fret of the A string. So that's it. So let's try that very slowly. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in terms of technical tips here, we've already covered a lot of it with the intro riff, but there's one key thing to point out when playing bar 3. After playing the line on beat 4, the little turnaround, when you move the hand back into position for the pedal, be sure to switch your fretting finger to the middle finger. So we're using the first finger before, but then when we play, you want to switch to the middle finger, and this then allows for easier playing of the next few notes. So you can fret the D at the 7th fret of the G string with either the barred 2nd finger, which is generally how Rocco plays it, or you can use the 3rd finger. So. Okay, so we're simply playing we switch to the 2nd finger, and then we're free to use these 2 fingers here or bar that 2nd finger. So that'll help with making that shift up onto the G string. It's also important to note from a fingerpicking standpoint that we're still using the 1st finger as the starting finger or for the downbeats when picking these higher notes. So if you've accidentally moved onto the 2nd finger, you know, when you shift up to this D natural, you know you've made a mistake somewhere, and you know everything's going to get messed up on the next turnaround. So that's why it's important to play through slowly, focusing on the fingering in both hands as you go. As for the double notes, you can use the fingering of 1, 2, 4 in the fretting hand to keep things nice and neat. But if you want to stick to, you know, 1, 2, 3 with a 1 finger per fret stretch, that's okay too. The main difficulty in that phrase is going to be accuracy in the rhythm and feel, which all boils down to good technique and stamina. One tip that I would give you in terms of the technique is to shift the thumb onto the A string from the E string when you move onto the double notes. So, you know, you're forced into having the thumb on the E string before that because there's a lot of playing on the A string. You know, you keep the thumb on the E string there. But then when you move up to, when you move up to the D natural for the these ascending notes, you can shift onto the A string. So for that line there, see there, I made the shift with the thumb. So on the first few notes, I'm actually anchored on the E string. Then I make the shift when I move up to the D natural for the ascent. So. And then when we start again, obviously I'm going to be hitting with the 2nd finger of the picking hand, okay? So let's put all 4 bars together and have a listen to that slowly. So 1, 2, 3, 4 again. One, two. Okay, so that's the line. Again, practice this as slow as you need to and then build up speed. Once you feel confident, you can try with the tracks at 3 different speeds. So first, let's try 90 beats per minute. Next, let's try 100 beats per minute. Finally, let's try full speed, 110 beats per minute. Okay, so that's What Is Hip and the fingerstyle funk of the late great Rocco Prestia. Bear in mind that this is only touching the surface of this song alone. There are many other cool bass riffs and lines to learn in there, and then once you move through the rest of the Tower of Power catalogue, you're going to discover a wealth of amazing funky bass lines. So let me know what other Rocco lines you'd want me to cover, check out the website for the lesson material, and I'll see you next week.